最近，我专访了芝加哥大学巴勒斯坦抗议的学生组织者和来自以色列的大一学生。
So my name is Yusuf. I'm a senior here at U Chicago, and I'm one of the organizers that set up the encampment.
So my name is Eitan Fisher. I am a Jew at the University of Chicago. I'm a first year. I grew up in Hong Kong. I lived there for 14 years, and for the last 5 years, I've lived in Israel.
澄清了抗议的诉求和动力，也聆听了以色列在美学生对个人人身安全受到威胁的隐忧。我想说，目前95%的大学抗议游行都是和平的。大部分学校也很有耐心，并没有呼叫警力协助。除了人口大城市如纽约和洛杉矶和某些比较保守的大学出现了冲突升级和警力动用，大部分的抗议学生，包括芝大，都在合理使用他们宪法第1修正案赋予的言论自由权利。营地也都没有破坏校园正常的学术秩序。但值得担心的是，美国党派政治极化的现状以及以色列游说集团的施压，会通过媒体，主要是右媒如福克斯，试图把总体和平、姿态多样的学生游行一棒子打成骚乱、亲哈马斯人士、反犹主义等等。这会在某种层面激发学生两方的冲突，在信息猜疑链和认知不平衡的互动中加剧冲突升级的可能。学校是否足够耐心抵御来自右媒和政客的攻击，并给学生足够的安抚和跨群体公开讨论的空间，将是今年学生抗议走向，甚至拜登连任危机所谓 LBJ 林登约翰逊时刻的决定性因素。对，希望在于每一个学校的智慧和抗议以及反抗议学生的互动模式之中。这里面最重要的是学生的共情能力和聆听反对方的意愿。比如这句口号 From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. 从河流到海洋，巴勒斯坦将会获得自由。这句抗议口号的理解，学生两方有着截然不同的认知。我分享一个芝大 C Post 对于629个美国4年本科大学5233名学生的最新研究。可以看出，在这个表格里，犹太学生和穆斯林学生对这句从河到海的口号理解大相径庭。犹太学生中有66%认为这是要取消以色列的存在，即赶出所有的以色列犹太人，甚至对他们进行种族灭绝。34%的穆斯林认为是实现双方能够共同生活在一个非犹太教的世俗国家之中，也就是所谓的异国解决方案，但是是一个世俗国家。只有14%的穆斯林学生认为口号是否定并取消以色列的存在。这句口号的语义认知差异显著加剧了误解以及冲突升级的可能性。犹太学生56%和穆斯林学生52%在校园中，相较于其他群体16%更高比例的感受到人身安全受到威胁，就不难理解。现实往往不是人脑海中的精准画面，而是他人对你的感知和反馈。类似的口号和术语还包括 Intifada 反抗、Zionist 西安主义、Antisemitism 反犹和 Anti-Zionist 反西安主义，以及 Anti-Israeli Government 反以色列政府，三者之间的差别。试想，当反犹成为了一个框，把所有的反对内塔尼亚胡政策打成反犹，那反犹这个说法就没有任何实质上的意义，甚至掩盖了真正的反犹行为。殊不知，目前世界上反犹最大的动力来源其实就是内塔尼亚胡的政府和他们的政策。The prime source of anti-Semitism of the world today is Netanyahu government. 当然，真正能够平息学生的愤怒以及解决这种零和博弈的逻辑，就是实质性的推进两国解决方案。下面我分享我采访芝加哥大学抗议学生组织者以及以色列犹太学生的采访，双语文字已经制作完成，大家也可以对照我的导言思考他们的回答。
All right, this is U Chicago. I said U Chicago didn't have encampment, but today we do. And we have many people here participating, observing, people on call, and also some police officers nearby. And we have today a participant. So can you introduce a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Yusuf. I'm a senior here at U Chicago, and I'm one of the organizers that set up the encampment.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about the demand you have for this
yeah, that's a
encampment?
huge question. So I think why we're seeing like mass student encampments, and especially why we're hosting one, is for our university to divest. So UChicago has active investments in weapon manufacturing companies like General Dynamics, who manufacture the like physical weapons that are being deployed and used in Israel that are killing Palestinians actively. So it's absolutely insane that here at this university that our tuition dollars can go directly to an apartheid state that is killing my family back home.
So I heard that in Colombia they have disclose and then divest and then repair statement.
Yeah.
So do you really know what's happening with the money or endowment going to the
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. Yeah, that's part of it. So disclosing is part of figuring out. So we can know.
Yeah.
So disclosing is one, so that the university is transparent. So we already know some of their investments by like public domains, but we don't know all of them.
Yeah.
So why we want them to disclose first, even before divesting, is so that we actually know the extent to where like their investments are going, because we already know like it's billions of dollars just from public domain. So imagine what we can imagine, like actually where their money is going if they were public about it. And then of course the divestment is that divestment process, and then the repair is, so now you're not investing that money in Israel. What are you going to do with that money? You need to repair some of the communities that one you're breaking just by being in the location that you are, but also the communities you've continued to break on the way of trying to get this divestment. Like there's not a lot of student support anymore for the university after what they did to us back fall by arresting 26 students. Yeah, it's still you can tell it's still like people are unsettled by it.
So how hopeful are you about the organization?
Yeah.
There are a lot of talk about why, Occupy Wall Street is not that effective because it's horizontal. It doesn't have a
100%.
structure. And we see that a lot of unstructured movement would have the power vacuum that would be filled by the outsider who may, hurt some Jewish students, and then it become a news on Fox News, trying to demonize students' movement as, leftist extremist.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the organization stuff, and what is your goal going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alan, I'm so hopeful. I'm so hopeful in this generation. I mean, like we have so many more Jewish students that are physically in the encampment that are supportive of this.
Yeah, I just saw
then Jewish students are actually like against this. So it's so insane that like the amount of people we've been able to mobilize. Like I've never seen anything like most of the time when we do actions, we're the ones that are kind of asking for community support. So if you do like a sit-in at Wall Street or even the Columbia one, like oftentimes when they were doing sit-ins or actions, like they were asking people to come, asking people to support. This is one of the first events we've ever done where it's been the community that's like it heavily anticipated this event and have heavily like influenced the reason why we even chose to do it. Like the community wanted this, and I think that there's something so powerful in kind of organized, unorganized actions, and they really can. Like I've never been this hopeful that like we're on the right side of history and we can get something done.
Yeah, tell me something about your interaction with some Jewish students nearby.
Yeah.
So what kind of dynamic is going on with you guys? I heard some of them are kind of worried.
Yeah.
And there are lots of survey on campus that
Absolutely.
more than 56% of Jewish students feel that they are physically threatened, and 52% of people having, Palestinian background fear the same would happen to them.
That's a really good point. Honestly, the people on the other side, I'm considering more so Zionists because I have so many Jewish friends that are pro-Palestine in here. So there are actually a lot of Jewish students that have been the ones kind of facing the other Jewish students. So they've taken it sort of in their own responsibility to not put like their Palestinian brothers and sisters on the line, and they just have a conversation between a Jewish student that's pro-Palestine and a Zionist, and they've kind of been diffusing those. But again, it's been the same sort of, what I've noticed is from the fall, it's been the same sort of very vocal kind of agitators that have come to every action and they keep doing this. Whereas on the other side, with all the actions we do, I see new faces every time. Like I see new faces of people organizing, new faces of people camping, new faces of people speaking on the mic. Like we've never run out of new or interested people to talk about Palestine, whereas I feel like the people who have been vocal on their side have just been the same people. Like they've just been the same people who aren't willing to listen to the Jewish members on our side that are supportive of what we're doing, and kind of understand where we're coming from so that we can understand where they're coming from. So it's been like kind of give and pull a little bit, but
let's talk about the fear. I guess a lot of people wear masks. I don't know whether they fear the police would arrest them or something like that, but there is an element of civil disobedience and the possibility of getting arrested. And this tradition goes back from Henry David Thoreau to Hannah Arendt,
100%.
and there is an idea of creative tension made by students to dramatize the events. But there is a possibility that in today's digital media society, things can be demonized pretty easily, and you can be taken out of context. So how do you handle this fear, and how are you going to confront the possible arrest?
Like that's an amazing question. I was already arrested by the university. I was arrested in the fall during the sit-in. So it's like, but there still is the fear. There's kind of a fear with everyone about what they'll do to us. However, there's never been an unwavering response to that fear that I've noticed. Like everyone is not scared about where their stance is. They're just scared about what the other people on the other side sort of will do to them. So we have no fear that we're on the wrong side of history. In fact, like you could tell with the numbers that we kind of know that we are on the right side because of all the different types of people that this is bringing together. And so I don't think there's any fear with our stands, but of course there's people have been monitoring their fears. I mean, we were masked to protect each other so no one gets sick, but people have been monitoring their fears and making sure that if people don't feel comfortable like facing police or press, that we have people to do that so that we can be in control of keeping each other safe.
So this year is very special because the Democrat National Convention is going to be held in Chicago, and there are lots of comparisons to 1968. When Richard Daley, the Iron Man, used police force to, not simply scare students, but also, exert this brutalizing power against students. Some of the old men who are alive, who were participants, had very good, oral history about that. So I wonder, this is the end of the semester, this is the end of the quarter. And there is a long summer in between before we get to that point, National Convention. So what would be the best strategy to dramatize this grievance and also sense of injustice felt by students leading up to the National Convention?
Oh my God, that is such a well-formed question. Like I haven't been asked like something so influential yet, but we have never seen kind of the students' response to what's happening. Like we've seen mass student protests be shut down and professors and students be arrested and abused. Like we've seen all of that, but we've never seen sort of the student response to that, which is we won't let this, for the first time, we won't let this stop us. This isn't like the encampment at CUNY in New York, it's physically would not be shut down because there were just so many people, or they wouldn't let people get into their circles during prayer. So I think the best strategy is we really need to act on that. We need to bring as many students together, especially in the Chicagoland area, to mobilize the day that's coming.
That's gonna be.
And it's gonna be
hard to imagine.
It's gonna be very interesting. But I think for the first time, you can't ignore the student's voice. Being a student doesn't mean that you're inferior, or being a student doesn't mean that you lack sort of the knowledge to talk about in a credible basis the things that we're talking about.
I have a final question. It's about your view on the difference between Trump and Biden. We know that Trump is actually a good brother of Netanyahu, and he proved that. And his son was actually a liaison between the Saudi government and the Israeli government. And I guess the mainstream viewpoint is that it's better to choose Biden over Trump. But since student protests would dramatize, the failure of current administration, and Biden's going to be very embarrassed about this whole thing. And if there are violence leading up to the convention, this is going to hurt Biden tremendously, and probably elect Trump, which is actually gaining a lot of,
Absolutely. That's
support.
such a good question. No, like this has been so defying in Biden's presidency. Like he will never be able, this will never not be attached to his name. But I do charge both of them with genocide. Both of them are genocide supporters. Both of them will continue their investments in Israel and in the genocide of Palestinians. So I think of them both like they're both sort of the devil you know and the devil you don't. Like they're kind of the two lesser, like which one's the lesser of both evils, but I still, I don't have support for either of them personally. I'm not talking about within our coalition, but it would be embarrassing for a president. It would be the first time in U.S. history where a president is reelected after losing re-election, and a president that was impeached twice, that wins re-election. It would be insane, and I do think that it's definitely possible considering the way Biden's handled this. So it'll be historic in U.S. history.
I think that kind of fear from Biden would already create this creative tension.
Yeah. Oh,
and
it's there.
The fear of Biden would probably.
Yeah. Oh, Alan, it's definitely there. 100%. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. So hopefully, you guys have a very fruitful encampment and all these protests.
I appreciate
this is very eye-opening to many people who have no experience or participation in such
and
events.
I hope that this is what it is. Like I hope people can sort of understand where we're coming from, and they understand sort of the Palestinian plight.
I guess the Chinese audience, my Bilibili, would have better view about your efforts and the dynamics that's going on. It's not the single story, and I would try to interview as many people as possible. And
I love
your
that.
point is really, really important, and you're a student organizer. That's fantastic.
Alan, I really appreciate this. These are some of the best questions I've gotten in interviews. These are very detailed and important.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Of course, Alan, you're the best.
Here is UChicago campus. We have some Jewish students who are walking around and trying to observe everything, and I guess you have very mixed feeling about this. Here are two students in UChicago. Could you introduce a little bit about yourself and your background?
So my name is Eitan Fisher. I am a Jew at the University of Chicago. I'm a first year. I grew up in Hong Kong. I lived there for 14 years, and for the last 5 years, I've lived in Israel, seeing life there at an international school where there are Arabs and Jews and Palestinians and Israelis in my school. A lot of my friends are now in the IDF. A lot of my friends are opposed to the IDF. So I have a really mixed view on this issue.
And how about you?
My name is Elliot. I'm also a first year at the college, and I'm from Connecticut. And I don't have much more than that for my introduction.
Yeah. So the whole campus is now different compared to yesterday. A lot of students have this encampment. And how do you feel about this? Do you feel physically threatened?
So I think that everyone has the right to express their opinions. Absolutely. There are two sides to this issue. No question about that. I think where I find issue is intimidation, breaking clear school rules without any implications. For example, there's a fence over here that hasn't been taken down at all. They're blocking the walkway right here with a sign that says "Globalize the Intifada," which is direct kill Jews in Israel, basically. There's a flag here on the tree, which according to school rules is clearly not allowed, and nothing's really being done about that. That's the thing that frustrates me the most. Obviously, certain chants and things like this originate in places. I'll give an example. The term "from the river to the sea" originated in Hamas's charter in the 20th century, and that has the intention of saying that we should wipe the entire state of Israel. And I think people here are very ignorant about these things, ignorant about what the word intifada means, ignorant about we will honor our martyrs, which are people that committed the atrocities on October 7th. And like, freedom of speech is very important to me. People being able to express their beliefs undoubtedly should be able to. I just think that people on a campus, especially with such high academic rigor as the one at University of Chicago, people should be much more aware and really try to unfold their ignorance and understand where their opinions lie or where their biases are.
Yeah, so one of the demands from them is divest, which means that the university would divest from the investment in some weaponry program in Israel. I asked one of the questions to them. They say that they know something about it, but they want more disclosure about the investment. So what do you think about this very specific demand? And do you see any gap between their demand and the thing they're actually doing?
Yeah, to be honest, it's hard for me to answer that question because I'm in pro-Israel, I would say, and I'm in favor of the actions that Israel takes, even though I'm questionable about Israel's government at times. There's no question about that. You can be pro-Israel, but not pro the government necessarily. I'd say the detail of where these investments go are obviously not clear, and they know that as well. The other side, people here know that it's not obvious, and that's why they ask for information first about where a disclosure first before they can decide to do anything. The purpose of the school with his investments is to make money, and I think whatever profitable opportunity they see is not necessarily a problem. Obviously, I don't believe there's a genocide going on in Gaza. I think that Israel is trying to wipe out a terrorist organization in urban warfare, which unfortunately has civilian casualties, which is super upsetting, but necessary in order to wipe out Hamas and bring the hostages home. Yeah, I don't really understand the divest.
Yeah. So from the Chinese vantage point, there are lots of reports and interpretation about what's going on in Gaza, and I guess the mainstream media is talking about this genocidal attempt by Netanyahu government, and we also see that in other Arab world or many other global South countries, they have very hardened view about the Israeli government.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going a little bit too broad, too far, and I personally think that Netanyahu has very stupid policy, in the lead up to this terrorist attack in October 7th. I wonder what's missing in the global news about Israel and about a lot of liberals in Israel. I guess one of the difference I see is that today a lot of liberals in Israel don't like Netanyahu, but they see Biden as the moral center. But in the United States, Biden is seen as co-conspirator with Netanyahu. The difference is huge because people who are involved physically, they think Biden is the middle center.
Yeah.
But people who are away from that part of the world think that Biden is not different from Trump. So how do you interpret this difference, and what is your view on this?
So I think to them, anyone that legitimizes the state of Israel or their sovereign, the right for Jews to have a home in their eternal homeland, anyone would be against that statement, right? So anybody that is not opposed to that or sends funds in order to fight a terrorist organization is inherently evil to them, despite Biden numerous times helping with humanitarian aid in Gaza, which I believe is super necessary. I think that, of course, Netanyahu, not just on the left in Israel, but, the general population believes that he made some fatal errors and he came into this war with some foresight about what day one after the war would look like. And as a result, there have been mistakes along the way, absolutely. I don't think that the solution is just to criticize Biden as, a terror supporter, as a Zionist, which he may well be, which is not a problem in my opinion at all. I'm not really aware, especially I don't know how Trump would have dealt with this situation. Obviously the election is coming up, so Biden is trying to please the majority of people, which is very difficult when this is absolutely split in the middle both ways, and it's hard to determine who sits on what side. As an Israeli, I am fortunate that Biden has made some very positive statements in the past. Turning back on them at times is frustrating. again, I really don't know how Trump would have dealt with the situation. When he was president, he was very, very pro-Israel with the Abraham Accords, which were very, very successful. And obviously the Saudi relations, which is what is theorized to have caused this war, or for Hamas to attack Israel on October 7th. Yeah.
So I have a final question about Zionism. Different generations in the U.S. have very different view on Zionism. I guess people who have been through the 60s would see Zionism as a triumphant ideology that actually established the Israeli as a country that survived through all the struggles. And people who lived through the 90s, they see the hope of Oslo Accord and the prospect of two-state solutions.
Yeah.
And they have mixed view on this Zionism, seeing it as a way to embolden some hyper-nationalists. And today's young people who have lived through the COVID and now in college, they see Zionism as inseparable from the identity of suppression and settlement. So how do you interpret Zionism? And is there a difference between Zionism and hyper-nationalism in today's world?
So Zionism has existed for over 2,000 years. It's Passover right now, which is a big holiday in Judaism that reflects the Jews leaving Egypt, leaving slavery for 400 years. And this was the nation of Israel's first moment to enter the eternal homeland, which was Judea, which is nowadays modern-day Israel. So this mindset of Jews having this right to their eternal homeland has been present forever. There have continuously been Jews in the land of Israel or Palestine or Babylonia or whatever it was called over the past 2,000 years. There have continuously been Jews there, and it is their eternal homeland. So in the 1890s, when Theodor Herzl decided to coin this term as Zionism, was no different. Jews had been facing pogroms and discrimination in Europe for hundreds and hundreds of years, and coining a term to this had nothing to do with a nationalist idea. It was a moment of Jews need a place to feel safe. Jews need a place to be at home, and Israel was that place. So when you talk about it in relation to nationalism, it's really just the definition that I perceive it, and why it's very confusing to me often when people are able to just throw around the word "kill the Zionists," or there was Zionists off our campus chalked over there a couple weeks ago. It's just Jews feeling that they have the right to eternal homeland, or anyone feeling like Jews have the right to an eternal homeland or the right to govern themselves. That's all it means to me.
Yeah, so my final question is on the end game. What would be the ideal end game in Gaza? Is it two-state solution, or is it that some sort of modus operandi would be formed? What is your view on the expectation of, let's say, the moral majority in Israel about this Gazan war? Yeah. What will be the end game?
So obviously Hamas, the terrorist organization, needs to be annihilated and wiped off the planet, or at least not have enough power to re-govern Gaza. I think the best solution is for some international parties in the Middle East to help create a government and rebuild Gaza. Obviously, it's depressing that it's been destroyed, though necessary by Israel. I think that something along those lines will be the right solution. The only question is, obviously, Palestinians in Gaza have certain perspectives on Israel, that are not very favorable. And the question is, what will prevent another October 7th from happening? And the answer to me is just if they are given weapons and the opportunity to destruct, we have seen time and time again that Israelis on the border with Gaza are not safe from that. There are still rockets that are fired on a weekly basis from Gaza somehow. I don't know where they're getting the funding for that if everyone is starving. I think some sort of international government forming there, a lot of education that, over the past couple months that the IDF has been in Gaza, they found, Mein Kampf, Hitler's book in schools, and education there from the youngest age is to hate Jews and to hate Israel. And in order to have a sort of peaceful situation, that can't be the reality. Same goes for the other side. There's obviously discrimination that goes on in Israel. So in order to have a long-term peace, there has to be an understanding of both sides, and one side can't just have it all. Yeah.
Okay, maybe a follow-up. Do you think Netanyahu should go?
Absolutely.
And what would be the best time frame if Biden wants to be elected?
Right. So obviously, Netanyahu's decisions are based on the fact that he hasn't announced that after the war he will step down, right? Just as the IDF, Herzl Halevi, the IDF chief of staff or the head of the IDF, announced right after October 7th that after the war he would step down, meaning that he had no motivation to do anything in favor of like trying to get another vote, right? I think Bibi should be doing the same thing so that they know that his actions are not in order for him to get another vote, but him because he wants the best for the state of Israel. If he doesn't do that, obviously he doesn't have a place in the government.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would say you represent the moral center in Israel, I guess. I gain a lot of insights from you, and you would observe everything, but keep safe.
Thank you so much. Thank
you.